Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that the divide between ordinary struggle and extraordinary achievement is far narrower than you ever believed. Success is not a mystical lottery ticket reserved for the genetically gifted or the chronically lucky. It's a slow-burn formula of mindset, micro-choices, and relentless habits that compound quietly while the rest of the world scrolls, snoozes, and second-guesses itself. Most people float through their days on autopilot, convinced that talent is fixed, circumstances are fate, and opportunity arrives with a trumpet blast. High performers operate on an entirely different frequency. They see every setback as data, every boring repetition as a building block, and every ounce of discomfort as proof that growth is happening in real time. They are not superhuman. They are simply engineers of their own odds. The first fault line lies inside the mind. A fixed perspective whispers that ability is carved in stone, that smart stays smart and average stays average. A growth perspective counters with a grin. Nothing is set. Everything is upgradable, and every challenge is an invitation to level up. Two people can stare at the same obstacle. One sees a stop sign, the other a signpost. Over weeks, months, years, that microscopic difference swivels their life trajectories like railroad tracks. One winds up circling the same small town, the other crosses continents of possibility. Habits then slip in like invisible architects. While the majority waits for motivation to strike like lightning, top performers design rainy day generators, a pre-dawn reading ritual, a standing appointment with the gym floor, a nightly audit of wins and lessons. Each routine looks trivial on its own, but stitched together they become a conveyor belt that carries them forward even on days when enthusiasm is flat. They know excellence isn't a grand gesture, it's the residue of daily repetition, the muscle memory of discipline flexed thousands of times when no one is watching. Fear, that ancient saboteur, is what pins most people to the mat. The dread of embarrassment, rejection, or plain old failure turns the unknown into a monster under the bed. High achievers feel the same quiver in the gut, but they step anyway. They ask, what's the worst that can actually happen, and can I survive it? 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes, and the realization pierces the illusion. Action becomes the antidote. Momentum gathers. Confidence, rather than a prerequisite, is forged in the heat of doing. Success, it turns out, isn't a fireworks display, but a dim, steady pilot light fueled by the infamous 1% rule. Read 10 extra pages today, practice your craft for just 30 more minutes, make that uncomfortable introductory call, and nothing dramatic happens, at first. But those marginal gains snowball. Over a year, improving by 1% each day multiplies your baseline by a staggering 37 times. Skip the same fraction each day, and you quietly shrink until the gap is a canyon. Comfort is the silent assassin of potential. It disguises itself as stability, but in reality it shrinks the borders of your world every time you choose the familiar over the unknown. Staying put feels safe in the moment, yet the cost is paid later in the currency of regret. High performers intentionally chase controlled discomfort, the harder workout, the tougher client, the conversation that could end in awkward silence. They'd rather face temporary pain than permanent what if. Patience, paradoxically, becomes a superpower in a culture hypnotized by speed. While most chase the dopamine spike of instant likes, quick profits, or overnight fame, the elite sow seeds whose shade they may never personally sit under. They understand compound interest, not only in finance, but in relationships, reputation, and mastery. The entrepreneur who reinvests instead of flaunting early gains, the artist refining technique long before applause, the student grinding while peers party. All are betting on a timeline that outlasts fads and vaporware. When failure inevitably shows up, average performers treat it like a verdict. High performers treat it like a lab report. Thomas Edison's thousands of unsuccessful filament tests weren't humiliations. They were eliminations of dead ends. Sales rejections, market research, a public misstep, feedback in surround sound. Detaching self-worth from single outcomes gives them the daring to iterate faster than pessimists can say, "I told you so." Environment amplifies everything. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of the ecosystem you swim in. Spend time with complainers and cynicism leaks into your bloodstream. Surround yourself with builders and your vocabulary shifts from excuses to strategies. Elite performers curate their company, their information diet, even the layout of their desks because they realize willpower eventually bends to gravity. They redesign the gravity. Discipline is the quiet workhorse pulling the entire wagon. Motivation may write inspiring posts, but discipline sets the alarm, turns off the notifications, and shows up anyway. It says no to the sugar rush, the doom scroll, the extra hour in bed, because it is saying yes to something larger: future freedom. Every micro decision is a vote for the person you are becoming. Enough votes and identity flips. You're not someone trying to write, you're a writer. Not someone hoping to get fit, you're an athlete in training. Then there's luck, that glittering myth. From the outside, winners look blessed by cosmic dice rolls. Dig deeper, and you'll find they simply purchased more tickets. They started more projects, shook more hands, learned more skills, shipped more rough drafts. Each attempt expands the surface area on which fortune can land. Doors swing open not because fate favors them, but because they have been quietly oiling the hinges for years. All of these threads weave together into a single fabric. Success is engineered, not endowed. It arises from thousands of near-invisible choices stacked like bricks: mindset bricks, habit bricks, courage bricks, patience bricks. None of them are glamorous in isolation. But mortar them together, and you get a wall high enough to see horizons impossible from ground level. The distinction between the few and the many is not a chasm, it is a staircase. Every step is a deliberate action anyone can take, yet most refuse because the risers are steep, unlit, and sometimes lonely. Picture your life 5 years from now. The difference between living the sequel to your current chapter or authoring an entirely new genre will come down to the rituals you repeat tomorrow morning, the resistance you lean into tomorrow afternoon, and the reflection you conduct tomorrow night. Success is nothing more than ordinary choices performed with extraordinary consistency. Will fear loom at the doorway, turning possibility into a detour? Or will it stand beside you like a torch, illuminating the next bold step? Will comfort swaddle you in temporary warmth, lulling you into quiet resignation? Or will it tighten around you like shuttered blinds, blocking out the sunrise that could have been yours? Will patience feel like dull, colorless waiting, draining the spark from your ambition? Or will it become the silent architect, layering brick upon brick until your foundation is unshakable? Will the environment you swim in poison your lungs with the smog of cynicism, or fill them with the mountain air of fresh ideas? Will discipline clang like heavy shackles each morning, or jingle like keys that unlock rooms you once thought were off limits? And luck. Will you stand idle, eyes skyward, hoping for a shooting star, or will you hammer steel against steel, forging your own constellation? The narrative is still an empty canvas, and every choice you make flings a new stroke of paint. In the fraction of a heartbeat after you read this word, you occupy a razor-thin ridge between two horizons. One side returns you to the gravitational pull of familiar frustration, comfortable, predictable, terminally safe. The other launches you into a realm where tiny, nearly invisible improvements gather speed the way a river gathers tributaries, quietly at first, then with unstoppable force. Understand this. Action does not guarantee applause, but inaction guarantees obscurity. Stumble forward. The ground you kiss today becomes the podium you stand on tomorrow. Scratch out drafts, scrap what doesn't serve, salvage the lesson, iterate again. Version 1 becomes version wonder only through relentless revision. So choose, deliberately, defiantly. Act, even if your voice trembles and your hands shake. Iterate until experiment turns into expertise and struggle turns into signature style. That, and nothing mystical, is the long-guarded secret of the few. Ordinary days, leveraged relentlessly, are the alchemy that turns leaden potential into lived success.